You know, folks, I was brought up in church and I was taught to believe that Jesus was the Son of God. And I went to church up until I was about 22 years old. And I walked away from the church because it went so far to the right and got so political back then that there was no way I could reconcile being a member of that church. And now that very church that I walked away from is so deep into Trumpism that there's no way I could ever entertain the idea of going back. But one of my biggest pet peeves about religion has always been when someone who doesn't live it at all and sets the worst of examples for everybody tries to preach to you and tell you that you're living wrong and that you should be living like them, and they're just nothing but a big hypocrite about it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. And now Lauren Boebert is out here talking about how everybody should just chase Jesus and how they should set good examples. And she's even gone so far as to say that she feels a calling to do what she's doing. So take a look at this clip, then we're going to talk more about it.
Now, I would be amiss if I didn't speak what's in my heart right now before we say goodbye. But, you know, in what I'm doing, this is all about faith. This has never been about personal gain. This is a calling, and anything that God is telling you to do, anything that he has called you to, is going to be more than you can handle personally. It's going to take more than your own strength. It's going to take more than your own abilities. If it is God's calling, you can't do it alone.
See, anytime somebody like Lauren Boebert says that she's been called to do what she's doing, I'm never impressed, because what that says to me is that God looked down on the universe, and out of every brilliant mind that he could have spoke to, out of every person on this planet, he looked down in sleepy little Colorado, and he picked out Lauren Boebert and said, yeah, she will be the one to lead my people. She will be the one to set examples that will draw everybody to my will. So when people say stuff like that God called them, it's never the flex that they think it is, because my first thought goes to, out of everybody that God could have called, he chose you. That's the best God had to do. So I'm not impressed. And I sure as hell ain't impressed when Lauren Boebert starts talking about her faith and how that, you know, you really don't have to do the works of God. You don't have to do anything. You just have to profess your faith. Take a look at this clip.
I need God by my side each and every day to accomplish what he has called me to. And, I was reading in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 12, it starts out by saying, fight the good fight of faith. You know, I think that's very telling, to start out with fight. God has called us to live by faith. The just shall live by faith. And we know that nothing pleases God except faith. It's not our works that please him. It's our faith. And if you're going to live by faith, there's going to be a battle ahead. So you better be ready to fight.
Now, folks, I ain't been to church since 2002, and I don't claim to be a believer, but I have studied the Bible my entire life, and I still study it this day. And the reason that I do is because of people like Lauren Boebert, who is always cherry-picking and bastardizing Scripture to weaponize it against other people. It's another one of my big pet peeves about religion. And so I decided, since she wants to start quoting the Bible about faith, that I will quote what Jesus said here about works, okay, and how you're supposed to live if you really are a Christian. So we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. He says, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and give it light unto all that are in the house. Let your light shine so before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Now, really, I want to ask you folks something. Do you honestly think that non-believers are going to look over at Lauren Boebert and be inspired to go to church and be inspired to go out here and live a godly life? Does she really represent the Father? I mean, we could sit here and go back over her past and everything she's been caught doing. She's constantly in the news as just one continuous train wreck. And yet she says, it's not about the works. I just believe in it. Well, the Bible says, let your light shine so that you would inspire others, to live that life. And I can't see for the life of me that Lauren Boebert is doing that. But now, if we turn over to Matthew chapter 7 and we start at verse 21, it says, well, let's start at verse 20. It says, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, and have we not cast out devils and done wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. Every time I read verses like that, I can't help but imagine the Lauren Boeberts of the world. Because they come out here, they thump their chest, they thump their Bible, they try to talk down to everybody and tell us that we should chase Jesus when they don't set an example at all. And then one of my favorite chapters in all of the Bible, and I think about it every time that I hear the Lauren Boeberts of the world going off on their tirades, is Matthew chapter 25. And I think this chapter right here pretty much lays waste to the modern day MAGA Republican Party, because it talks about how that in the day of judgment that God is going to separate the sheep from the goats. He's going to separate up the good and the bad, and he's going to judge them all accordingly. And it says right here in Matthew chapter 25, if we start at verse 34, it says, Then the king shall say unto them on his right hand, Come ye blessed of my Father, and inherit the kingdom that was prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, you came to me. Then the righteous shall answer unto him and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry and fed thee, or thirsty and gave you drink? When did we see you a stranger and took you in, or naked and clothed you? When were you in prison and we visited you? And the king shall answer to them, Verily so much I say unto you, as you have done to the least of my brethren, you have done it for me. When has Lauren Boebert ever done for the least of the brethren? Where is one piece of legislation where Lauren Boebert tried to feed the hungry, or clothe the naked, or give the thirsty something to drink, or heal the sick? When did she ever visit anybody? When did she ever welcome people in? Well, if we keep going on down, it says, Then he shall say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, you're cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, you took me not in. I was naked, and you clothed me not. I was in prison, and you visited me not. And they will answer and say unto him, But Lord, when did we see you hungry and thirsty and naked, a stranger, sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you? And then he will answer unto them, Verily I say unto you, insomuch as ye did not to the least of my brethren, you did not for me. Now, really stop and think about that when you think about Lauren Boebert sitting here preaching to all of us, telling us all how we should be living. When has Lauren Boebert ever did any of those things to help anybody? She can sit up here and she can profess faith all day long, and that might make some people feel warm and fuzzy inside, but it doesn't me. And I'm tired of people like that having the reins of Christianity, because you know what? I personally don't believe in an afterlife. I personally don't believe in the whole Holy Bible story. I don't. That's just my personal belief. But there are people out there who does live a good, clean Christian life, and they're not trying to weaponize it against anyone. They're not trying to beat anyone over the head with it. And I want to make it clear that when I'm doing these videos, I'm not talking to you if that applies to you. I'm talking to the hypocrites. I'm calling out the hypocrisy, which is something that Jesus did throughout the New Testament if you read it. So we can't allow people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene should not be allowed to have the patent on the word patriot. Okay, she shouldn't get to call herself that. And Lauren Boebert shouldn't get to tell us what Jesus says and that we should all chase Jesus. She shouldn't be allowed to have the patent of Christianity, because there are good people out there that do live a clean life. And if those people wants to reach out and talk to me about straightening up, I'll listen if they're a good person. But I'm not going to sit back and listen to the woman giving a hand job in a theater with a bunch of kids around tell me that I need to follow Jesus, and that she just has faith and that's all she has to do, that God doesn't care about her works. If she actually dove in and read the Bible, she would learn that it actually does tell you that you're supposed to do the works. But I think one of the main reasons that brand of Christianity catches on with so many people, especially MAGA, is the Apostle Paul came along and said, you know what, you actually don't have to uphold none of those Jewish laws, really, if you don't want to. All you got to do is just believe this dude died. And a lot of people have took advantage of that idea, and it's just a scapegoat to them. They just use it. Oh, I've got faith. I know so many people who are terrible people, but will say to me, I'll be praying for you, like they've got some sort of connection to God. They don't, and I'm always going to call them out on their bullshit, especially Bobo.